In today's video, we're going to finish our trip into Ireland and take you to the Cliffs of Moher, the oldest bar in the world, and 2 different castles, including Blarney Castle. Stay tuned. So we got up in the morning in Westmeath and we headed out to the Cliffs of Moher. Really a great drive, but I will tell you, some of these roads got narrow and very curvy, and in some cases not wide enough for 2 cars to pass by. We got a little bit of footage of the road. Check this stuff out. It was really amazing and beautiful. I won't bore you with all the things we filmed, but it was a cool drive. When we arrived at the cliffs, there was actually a golf cart, and it was really nice to get a ride up. I'll blame it on the fact that my mom was there at 80 years old, but the reality is it was nice for this little drive all the way up to the top of the cliffs. It was probably, I don't know, let's say 1,500 to 2,000 yards away. It was a pretty good walk from the parking lot up to it, but he pulled us right up there, and then we got out and we walked along these walls so you could look out over the top. Absolutely beautiful. So this was a little bit to the north side, and the cliffs aren't as dramatic here, but it's really hard to judge the surf. I mean, this surf looks like it's probably 6 to 10 feet at the small sides where they're cresting, maybe 12. Like, it really was pretty large. And the fact that you're up so high, you lose a little bit of the perspective of just how big these waves would be. Really dangerous, I'm sure, if you were down there, given the cliffs are right there. Look at those waves coming in, isn't that cool? So this is now looking down toward the south. It's a little bit more dramatic, the cliff line. And with the mist coming up off of these rocks, you can almost see it looks like low clouds. It was really cool looking. What's interesting is this cave right here was used in a movie. And now I forget if it was Lord of the Rings or something else. But yeah, I think it was actually Lord of the Rings. Anyway, really cool looking. And I have no idea how they would have filmed that. And those waves were absolutely monstrous. But the view is just amazing. Amazing. It was cold and windy on the top of these cliffs, though. Very cold and windy. Neat little information center about all this as well. So as we left the Cliffs of Moher, we decided to go grab some lunch. We looked on a map and just found a place not too far away. And it really is pretty interesting driving down these roads. I mentioned before, they're fairly narrow, and this one was pretty good size. Zach, you could pass a truck going the other direction. A little bit of a pucker factor when you're not used to driving on that side of the road. But what was so interesting to me is we're driving along and then you just look, and on the left here you see the remnants of what was probably a tower castle. You know, Deb and I started talking about this after we'd see these every 15-20 minutes on your drive through the country. You'd just see this remnants of a castle, and we realized it's not much different than driving through the US when you see a dilapidated barn. The difference is that dilapidated barn might be 100 or 125 years old. But here in Ireland, it could very well be the remnants of a castle from the 1200s or 13 or 1400s. Really was interesting and something we talked about quite a bit. But as I mentioned, like, we're driving along, and sure enough, we look out the other side, and here's another one. It's just the remnants of an old castle. And, you know, they're just sitting in somebody's pasture. It's the craziest thing. Craziest. As we were driving a little closer to our spot where we were going to have lunch, we kind of noticed off to the left, it appeared we were going down the coastline, and there was this really cool scene here. You know, Deb's filming out the window, and there, boom, you kind of see this amazing seaside area. We pulled over into a little parking lot just to film it, but it was absolutely beautiful. And then off to lunch. So we dilly-dallied around quite a bit, and then we decided to go to the oldest bar in Ireland. It's a place called Sean's Bar. We got there after dark, but had an absolutely wonderful time there. So this was actually built in the 900s at a crossing point of the River Shannon. And it's what became Sean's Bar, but this thing is really dated. In the 900 to 1100s, this was often visited from chieftains and kings. And in like 1129, they actually built the first sort of castle walls around this structure. You keep moving forward. In like 1654, William Moorhead owned the building and sort of renamed it to the Three Blackamoor Heads. And ultimately, as time went on, in the 1970s, they were doing some remodeling. They found the original walls and some of the coins that were crafted back in the 1700s for this bar. Really just a cool history for sure. It was dark when we arrived. What was cool is as you walk up here, you can see this building on the left-hand side. Pay close attention to it. It's actually a castle, and it's just sitting right in the middle of downtown. It's called Anthole, I believe is how you pronounce it. But then you turn around, and this little place right here is Sean's Bar, and it's over 1,100 years old. So once inside, you're sort of instantly met with the Sean's Bar sign from Luanis Inn in the 900s. What do you do? First thing you got to do is get you a good cold draft beer. It's exactly what we did. And then we started looking around, and you can just see inside of this place, you know, this is clearly dated, and it is awesome. I mean, dated in a good way, not a bad way. As you go out to the back, there's a lot more space, so you can, it's like an outdoor seated area with like a canvas sort of roof over it. And when you go upstairs from outside, there's like a little modern bar up there with a lot of photographs from, you know, back in the day. And it was really just a neat history, if you will. I always enjoy places like this that have a little bit of local culture and history, and especially when they display it. But right outside of that little bar, you can see, here's that roof I was talking about. And when you look outside, you can see right out across the river there. And then this was down below, underneath that that top. This is where we relaxed, because there was actually a lot of people outside. You can see the Sean's Bar signs, and just, you know, they kind of made this up a little bit like a touristy thing. But we went inside, and this fireplace hearth is actually from the 900s. And just take a look and see what it was looking like from just sitting in the front. As it cleared out a little bit, we all sat up there and had our beer. But as we were traveling, we had a miner with us, so we spent a little more time in the back area there underneath that roof. And Nick, I'm going to tell on my mom. Here's my mom actually having a drink, which I didn't think she did, but that's awesome. So the next day, we were driving to the second location where we were going to stay. And this is we were going toward Cork, which is on the south side of the country. We saw this amazing view here. This is called the River Suir. It's actually spelled S-U-I-R, but pronounced River Suir. And this was really pretty. It was in a little town called Tipperary, Ireland. But you can see the view was just gorgeous. Now, I will admit, the really cool thing about this, even though you see the church in the distance, was on the opposite side of this road was this view, right? You see the water coming through, and then just like in other spots, you look up and, oh, look, there's a castle. And this is called the Castle Cahir. It's actually spelled C-A-H-I-R, but pronounced Castle Cahir. Let's go check it out. As you make your way toward the entrance, you cross this small little creek or river, and this is the way you sort of go into the castle. What's interesting is on the left, you can see that wall. That's the one that's right there along the edge of that small river, and it almost feels like you're going into a service entrance of like a hotel or something. You know, it's not the grand entrance you might see in a castle from a movie, but we just walked toward the back here, and there was a door that we walked through to get to the little admission spot. What's interesting about these is many times castles are thought to be these exorbitant buildings, but really they are walled cities almost. And you can see here from standing in the greened area, which probably was filled with homes and stables or whatever it would have been back in the day, this is all sort of walled off for protection. The actual entrance to the castle is just in the left corner of that. And you can look at that gate. We'll come back to that in a minute, but that gate's pretty amazing. And then this is the way you walked into the fortress side of the castle. And again, more more walled areas, and then you start to see the larger buildings, what you would call a castle or the living quarters. Even, if you look up there, you saw those windows and those little outcroppings. It really is neat to walk through these things. Cahir Castle was built in the 1300s, it's estimated. And what's interesting is it's so well preserved because this particular castle was involved in several different conflicts. And in the 1650s, it was about to be taken over. And I love this letter they had posted.
Sir, having brought the army and my cannon near this place, according to my usual manner in summoning places, I thought fit to offer you terms honorable to soldiers, that you may march away with your baggage, arms, and colors free from injuries or violence. But if I be, notwithstanding, necessitated to bend my cannon upon you, you must expect the extremity usual in such cases. To avoid blood, this is offered to you by your servant, Oliver Cromwell.
It's really an interesting little excerpt, if you will. And while I've been reading that, I was showing you some of the views of these halls. They're these giant halls. You can see the windows and how thick they are. It really is surprising that the walls of these castles sometimes were, 3 to 10 feet. Look at how deep that is from the window to the inside edge of the room. And then the views, again, are just amazing, looking out at the River Suir there and seeing the church into the distance. And again, you look out at this walled city with the cannons and whatnot right inside of it. I thought it was really, again, look at how thick those walls are. I guess you could penetrate them at the windows area, but these walls could definitely withstand cannons and every other kind of shot. Now, here's what's interesting. I mentioned before that that gate. We're going to come back to that in just a minute. Oftentimes above the gate, they have what they refer to as the murder hole. And the murder hole is a spot where you can drop things on people that might be coming into the actual castle during like a breach. That right there is how they lifted the gate. A couple of men would put sticks in that and lift that gate up and close the entrance or open the entrance. And again, you can see these halls in here. You can picture this was probably filled with a lot of people having meals and whatnot. Now, this is well preserved, again, because the soldiers abandoned this to save their lives in this particular place. And then off the side of that room, here's a little room here. And this looks like a window. It's got a grate at the bottom, but that is not what it is. This is actually the restroom. People would go in buckets and dump them here.
Which I'm sure wasn't a drain. It was probably nothing more than it dumped outside of the building.
All right, enough about poop. We'll go back to the outside. Every time I saw a view from inside the castle outward, I was amazed at what these look like. You can see other parts of the walled city or the castle itself. You could see the rivers running by it. And what's interesting is, you look out and you also see a grocery store and a gas station. So it's just this amazing, difference between old and new sitting side by side. And we're not talking about old like in the U.S. Look, there's a 100-year-old barn. This is old like in, there's a 600-year-old building. One of the cool things is they had a room with a bunch of history of the other castles. But what I found most interesting is you get to sort of view what these walled cities look like. And while from the outside it looks like one giant building, oftentimes it's not. There is a large building for the hierarchy of that particular area where they would live in nicer spots. But oftentimes this was a place for everybody from the elite to peasants. But again, the views outside of the windows, just phenomenal. Now, we are standing outside of the castle, but still within the walled city, and I just wanted to show what this looks like. You can see no real grass here. You can see the age of the rocks, and you can also see the spots where people could be on the roof and shooting arrows out of those little slots if that's what they needed to do. It was definitely set up for defense. This was a dangerous time, and there could very well be people going to attack any people that were here. So here on this right-hand side is these walls I was talking about. This isn't actually a building. From the outside, it would look like a building, but these are thick walls that would protect the people inside of this walled city with little holes that they could open up to shoot bow and arrows out or whatever they happen to have for weapons. Now, what was really interesting is we're outside of the castle now, and we're getting ready to leave, and when we were leaving, they asked if we saw the cannonballs, and we didn't at first. When this was attacked in the 1600s, there were several cannon shots at the castle, and they actually stuck up in the wall. So I went ahead and found this one, which was a good spot to film it, and there it is, like literally a cannonball from the 1600s still sitting in the wall. Since this was just a stopover on our way to our second house, we decided to go ahead and move on, and off we go to Kinsale.